From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode on the Centrifuge of Life. I'm reading a book called Halftime, Moving from Success to Significance by Bob Buford. And the book is really for those people who are intentionally looking to move in their, either their life or their career from a place of being successful for themselves to being significant in the life of others. And he really refers to the book in terms of the analogy of halftime, of moving past the first half of life and onto the second half of life, where you really start to make a difference in terms of impact on other people. So I'm enjoying the book, definitely getting some nuggets out of it. But there was a concept in there he talked about that really sparked a thought in me. Now he's speaking at in terms of the second half of life, obviously. Halftime is what the book's about. But I really think he could have elaborated on this concept, and really it applies to all of us. So I wanted to drill down into it. So in the book, he talks about in the first half of our life, we are victims of I can't even say that word, centrifugal force. And he says that, in the second half of life, we learn to move away from the chaos and the centrifuge of life. Actually, he didn't even use that term. That's my term. But he just says, most first halfers become victims of centrifugal force, and around the perimeter of their lives are vital points that demand attention. And that's absolutely true. There are points in our life that demand attention. That's just a fact of life, that, whatever we place in the center of our life is going to demand some of our attention. But I don't think that stops in the second half of life. I think all of us are victims of centrifugal force. And, a centrifuge is kind of that device that it spins around at high speeds, and the centrifugal force slings the whatever's inside of it to the outside, and it separates different substances of different densities. So, for example, you put something in a centrifuge, anything liquid or sometimes even it can have matter in it, but the centrifugal force will separate anything that's of a different density. So basically, stuff spins around at high speeds and separates. But I think that's applicable for all of us. Whatever phase of life we're in, whatever we choose to put in the middle or in the center of our life is going to determine how fast life revolves. It's going to determine how fast life spins. It's going to determine how things separate in our life in terms of values. So for instance, if you are a work-centered person and your career is of complete and utmost importance, and it absolutely comes first, your career may come before family or time with your kids, or there may be something that you are driven to do to the exclusion of everything else sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you've chosen to place as the center of your life that value. And the rest of your life is going to spin around it. And sometimes the other pieces of life are going to be flung to the outside of the centrifuge. So my point here is that whatever we choose to put at the center of our life is going to determine how life revolves around that. If we put our mission in life, our purpose in life, our God-given, purpose-driven calling in the center, then life is going to spin around that. And, I can see that that's certainly true for both me and for Mac. As we've grown in our journey of personal growth, what's at the center of our centrifuge is different now. At some time in our life, it was about being successful in our own right. It was, having a good, secure, steady career with a good paying job with some benefits, and kind of on the weekends was when you had fun. But as we've changed what was central to our life, now it's changed our perspective and what's important to us. Something different is at the center. And so life revolves around a different center. So I think we naturally do that a little bit as we, go through the seasons of life. When you're in college, perhaps the center of life is focusing on that scholastic or career and achievement. And when you first get married and then have kids, your center of life is focused around the family. So, life is naturally full of some seasons. The point we have to be careful about is that we're continuing to mature through those seasons. Because I think if we get to the end of our life and we realize that the center of our centrifuge is still spinning around just success for oneself in the moment, we'll find that we've lost the meaning of life. As we grow through our journey of personal growth, if our centrifuge is spinning around making a difference in the life of someone else, then we see things with a different perspective. Our values are different. What's important to us is different. But that drives decisions around how we spend our time. Max had a quote yesterday. We were doing a webcast on transformational leadership and the transformation equation. And it's a relatively new concept we've been working on talking about the different elements of transformation. Transformation is kind of a buzzword where it sounds good, but what actually goes into creating a transformation? And so we were doing a webcast courtesy of ATD, an organization on talent development, and they asked us to do a webcast on transformation. We've got an upcoming workshop in Alexandria, and in April, a whole day and a half workshop on transformation. And so they wanted us to do a webcast and kind of introduce some of those topics to promote the event, the seminar. So we were doing the webcast and talking about transformation, and Max had a pretty cool quote. And it really resonated with me. And maybe he said it before, but maybe I'm just at a different place, and so it resonated with me a different way. He said, purpose creates focus. Purpose creates focus. And that kind of falls right in line with what I'm talking about here. Whatever we put at the center of our life, whatever's in the middle of the centrifuge, is our purpose or our one big goal. Or Bob Buford, in the book I'm reading it, calls it what goes in the box. He uses the analogy of you can only put one thing in the box in the center of your life, what will it be? And that purpose that we put in the center of our life is going to create focus around that. So, for example, when I switched my purpose to one of making a difference in the life of someone else, that really created a focus around that purpose. And so other things changed in terms of priorities. So, for example, I was getting ready to do some laundry the other day, and I looked down and I saw the entryway right there at the front of our house really kind of needs to be vacuumed. Now there is absolutely a time in my life that I vacuumed religiously, like once a week. It was just that was something that happened every Friday. The house got vacuumed. Now the need to vacuum has probably decreased because we no longer wear shoes inside our house anymore. So really the only place that has to be vacuumed regularly is right there by the door where we take our shoes off. But I noticed that it kind of just some debris and some leaves have drifted in, and I thought, man, I need to vacuum. And then I thought there was a time when I would drop everything and vacuum right away and suck up every piece of dirt because that was important to me. And I'm not saying that being clean is less important, but that my focus now and more of my energy goes into doing things like writing books or articles or podcasts like this. So my center has changed, my purpose has changed, and it's created a different set of a different focus in life. So, my question for you is, what is at the center of your life? What is your centrifuge spinning around? What's the one most important central thing in your life? What value, if you can only pick one, what is most important and at the center of your life, and everything else spins around that? And if you haven't identified that yet, that's okay, but be intentional about growing toward that, identifying that, because I guarantee you your life is spinning around one central thing right now. You may or may not be happy with that, but you have to think about it. It's not going to happen accidentally because we're victims of the centrifuge. If you are not intentional about placing something in your center, something is there already by default. You can't have a vacuum or a void. Something is there. If you're not intentionally setting something there, something is already there. You know, life is full of seasons. So there absolutely is something there, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my point is, we have to be intentional about identifying our one central purpose in life that we want to set in the middle of the centrifuge. What value are we claiming to say, this is my one thing that's most important, and everything else is focused around that? Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.